Rob, it's been like 10 days since I read this book, and I don't remember what I want to talk about in spoiler talk, but I do remember that I didn't really care for that ending.
Yeah, the ending went really weird because, like we were talking about in the regular review, we went from a conventional, like, PI kind of story to your like sitcom, not sitcom, but like your TV show, Stop the Bad Guy kind of TV procedural thing, to like being locked up in a compound where really weird, like, because it got pretty dark. He really murdered that one cop, Dwayne.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He murdered the shit out of that guy.
Well, and he killed Patty and Ted too.
Yeah, like, so, but even before that, they were just holed up in this compound trying to figure out how they were going to nail this guy. And I was like, where's this going? I couldn't figure out how, like, what clever thing are they going to do to get the evidence and get out of there? But they never do. And so the dog attack really kind of like ruins everything. He gets attacked by the dog, which, then Beasley is on to him, and then he sees the two kids boning on his mom's bed, which I thought was a great moment. Because he's like, what does he say? Not on my mom's bed or whatever.
Yep.
What does he call it? Momsy?
Yep.
Not on Momsy's bed.
Yeah, he definitely has a psycho level attraction. I think they even use that analogy in the book, if I remember correctly.
And then, so like when he goes off and you hear the off-camera gunshots is like the best way that I could say it, because he wasn't watching the screen when the guy went in and shot them, right? He was trying to free himself.
Yes.
So he never witnessed the death. He just assumed from the gunshots that they died, right?
I believe so.
And so I was thinking, oh, there's going to be some clever thing that happens, and they're going to, like, happily ever after. And, of course, Frank is operating under the assumption that Patty and Ted died, which was true. And that really blew me away. I was not expecting Frank to be the only one to come out of this. And maybe I'm assuming he did, because he was going to be the only person that was alive or whatever. But that weird hallway shit. What's the bubbles? What's going on with the bubbles?
Yeah,
is it supposed to make you slip and trip up on the lasers?
I mean, that's all I could figure out. But all I kept thinking is, why aren't the lasers just placed better?
More lasers. You don't need those bubbles.
Yeah, just put them in such a way that nobody can traverse them, right? Yeah, the bubbles was weird. It did get really weird and dark, and they're in that compound for days.
Yeah.
And I don't know how big of a compound it actually was. I got the feeling it was just like a dozen rooms, 24. It would seem really difficult for them to stay hidden for that long.
Yeah, and then, like, this guy's getting cuckolded, like, in hiding. Like, the lady he was trying to hook up with is now hooking up with this other dude, and, like, yeah, it just got really dark, and, like, there was no satisfaction to him, kind of, to Frank winning, because he used the guy's hallway of death against him.
Yeah.
So there wasn't, like, any personal, like person-to-person revenge. I don't know.
I don't know. So I'm not a writer, but God damn it seems like endings are really hard for people. I feel like no matter, and sometimes I don't touch on it because, the story's good enough, and you know what I mean? Like, we don't have to touch on the end of it necessarily, but God damn it, more than half the books we read, I'm always just really, like, let down at the ending. Not like I needed there to be a bigger thing that happened, or even, I know you're thinking like, oh, the like big reveal. Like, there was nothing to reveal here. It just felt unfinished. It felt like there should have been 4 more pages. And even if those pages, like, this book to me would have been better served if those 4 pages were the very short article that he wound up writing about this. Mm-hmm. Like, he did all this and it's so big, but he only got X amount of words in a newspaper. So he kind of details out the New York Times, 3-column, page 3, kind of story about this thing. Like, that would have felt like a better ending to me.
Yeah. And I don't know, considering that he didn't really have much of like a character arc. He was kind of a down and out, not loser. I didn't get a loser vibe from him, but he wasn't like a, he didn't have his shit together. And at the end, he was just the guy who didn't have his shit together, but it was also like suspected of being a terrorist. Who, you know what I'm saying?
I felt like he was in a downward spiral, like he was drunk more and more. Like he's mentioned as a drunk in the synopsis, and at the beginning, I don't remember thinking that at all.
That was a gradual. Gradually it did increase. Downward spiral for sure. It's just like I wanted to see, like, they killed Dwayne. That made sense. He was the bully doofus ex-boyfriend. Everybody died except for Frank and Bodie, the little stout police officer woman.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, it was. I knew it wasn't going to be a satisfying end for you. Like sometimes, I don't know. Like you get a feeling at the end when you flip that final page and there's nothing more to read. Like you kind of like you let the ending set in. And for me, I was just like, that's it. And I just moved on. I just went and watched TV afterwards. So, not a satisfying end. Not like the worst end ever, but like I kept thinking that like one of the cops was going to be in cahoots with this crazy guy, and like his whole weird like God is a gun and water. I don't know. The whole like his psychosis was really kind of poorly developed too.
Yeah. Well, like I said, he felt kind of stereotypical too, like weird relationship with his mom, militant. The only thing that was different about him was his method of attack. If it just would have been fertilizer that he was stockpiling to like blow up a building,
right? More authentic.
That's the only thing that made him weird and not stereotypical of a militant terrorist.
Yeah. So all in all, like, again, I go back to the fact that like Patty and her mom was like the best part of this book as far as like actual storytelling goes. Because it's set up so great. I just have to say, because it's set up so great, because she's obviously convinced herself that her mom is just ready to get out of the hospital at any moment, against all evidence. And Frank knows this, but he doesn't want to like really push the subject because he didn't know her that well. Well done. And then the next thing you hear about her, she's dead. And then it kind of confirms that all along she was lying to herself. There was so much story that was told in that little tiny storyline that was so fucking authentic and great and just impactful and emotional that it far outshines like the rest of the story.
Yeah, and there's that moment, like, so Frank has seen her twice, and Frank, there's really no visible change.
Yeah.
And then they leave the hospital. I don't remember where they go, but they go to probably a restaurant, and someone says, "Oh, hey, how's your mom doing?" And she's like, "Oh, so much better this week." Yep. Like, and you get the real realization, not just that she's hopeful, but that she's
lying to herself, delusional.
Well, yeah, that she's deluded herself, really, not even lying to herself. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, that she's delusional about it. Like, her desire for her mom to be okay and her life to go back to normal is so strong that it overcomes the objections. Up until then, you're like, oh, she's doing better. But, she actually says, like, oh, I think she's just a couple days and she'll be home. And you're like, Jesus Christ. Yeah. So, yeah, I agree with you, though. It was definitely one of the better written, serious parts of the book.
Yeah, I mean, I would hold that moment up against, like, moments in books that I find far superior to this book because it was great.
Sure.
And then, like you were saying, overall, the tone of the book was very comfortable and it was fun. But that ending, it was, I think he kind of painted himself into a corner with like blowing up the Escalade and like Wilmer dying and everything. It was just a little much, and there wasn't going to be that there couldn't be that happy ever after kind of end to the book, I don't think.
No, I agree.
But I like the Wilmer character. We didn't talk about him very much.
Sure. Yeah. Wilmer's your regular, like, crusty old guy who's a criminal. Like, even he felt a little stereotypical to me, but in a good way.
Right. Like he was a cartoon character almost.
Yeah. I mean, I liked Wilmer. I mean, I thought like Ted was pretty well written. Kind of going back and forth on hemming and hawing about his involvement in this and not wanting to talk about it and then talking about it. Like whoever wrote this book, I mean, did some things really well, but then did some other things really. And again, I mean, based on their music and stuff, the fact that the story didn't follow any kind of regular arc, I mean, makes sense. But as a writer, you want, how do I say this? As the residents, you want your fans to read this book.
Yeah.
But as a writer, I'm hoping that you want readers to read the book. There's a difference.
Right. Like you want it to stand up on legit literary merit or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've got nothing else on this.
Yeah. Let's thanks Patreon contributors for joining us for this spoiler talk. Hopefully it paints a good picture of the book and now you'll have I hopefully you read it if you didn't and you just wanted to see what's going on. I don't know, it was still fun enough to read. But we'll do our wrap up. So again, thanks for contributing and we'll see you soon for some more spoiler talks.